Thank you very much for joining the Voice of Job Seekers podcast. This is Mark, and this is the day where we talk about trends in 2023. And I have back with me, as I did last year, Hannah Morgan of careershepherd.net. How are you?
Good, good.
Good. And she's a frequent writer, some of everywhere. We don't need to go through that. You can do her profile. And of course, we have Robin Ryan back with us. Glad to have you, Robin. How are you?
Thanks for having me.
Hey, great to have you. I do have bottom thirds for both of you. So in case you are viewing, that is Hannah's bottom third. I basically get it from their LinkedIn profile. So if you see something that's out of date, that's not my fault.
Okay. And thank you.
But I think everything for you, Robin, is pretty good there.
Right.
And most of you have more credentials than I have space for a bottom third. So I had to choose something and then get out. In the
Okay.
meantime, my name is Mark Anthony Dicey. You can find me at thevoiceofjobseekers.com, the Voice of Job Seekers podcast, YouTube channel, Twitter, and all that kind of stuff. What we do today, we're talking about job search trends in 2023. And before we got on, we already started having a lively discussion about a couple of things. One of the things that Robin announced was what was going on in her state as far as employers posting job salaries. Maybe, Robin, you can go ahead and take that forward.
I live in Washington State, and January 1st, employers will be required to list their salary. And if there's a range, they have to list the range. They can't put 29,000 and up. So it has to be very specific. If they have a commission structure, they're going to have to say what that is in the announcement. Following Colorado, we're following California. And the most important thing, if you don't live in any of these three states, is what happens in California and the West Coast flows across the country. So a lot of these policies start out here and flows across. I think it's a wonderful thing for job hunters because pay equity is a huge, huge issue and a lot of reasons why women are paying so much less than men. It hasn't changed very much, that they're still around 18 to 20% less than men. And some of that comes from they don't negotiate when they first come in and they first get offered the job and so never catch up. So I think this whole for having the employers declare what salary is in the job application is fabulous. And it's a very exciting for the job hunter.
It's happening in New York City too.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
in New York.
Yeah.
Yes. And Illinois hasn't quite caught on, although there are employees who are voluntarily putting their posting salaries. Not enough of them. But one of the things you talked about, Ben, is which I discussed and Jack Kelly and I discussed on Job Seeker Nation, is that employers are looking at workarounds as far as when they post a salary. They may not be able to put 29,000 and up or 70,000 up, but they are putting 70,000 to 170,000, which serves no one really
Right.
in gaming the system, so to speak. And so, and that's why people, job seekers are looking at employers as they can never trust them because they're already looking at gaming the system. And that's one way that they tend to do it all throughout. And they play these games where they kind of shift the different parts, say it was this, now it's this because of some magical formula that we came up with, and knowing that they lie. Employers lie.
Misrepresent. Use that word.
Okay, you could be nice if you want to.
Okay.
Employers flat out lie. We know it because we know before the pandemic, and Hannah, you heard me say this before the pandemic, oh, we really can't do remote working. And that was February of 2020. Then all of a sudden in May 2020 is, oh, we not only can remotely work, but we can watch you do your work too. It's like, how do you get from one place to another? And before you just denied me because you said you can't do it, nobody can do it. Knowing that was all lies. So employers lie. So let's,
You brought up a point about remote work. I'm writing an article right now for Forbes about what's happening to remote work going forward. And yes, there are several employers that are starting to push that you have to come back into the office. There's a big resistance and pushback from managers, directors, VP level And the younger people under 30, they like being in the office. They need that connection. They want to meet people. They need the mentoring. But others are saying, I had 3 clients in the last month said, I'm quitting my job because I'm not moving. And one was making several $100,000 a year. And she said, nope, I'm not moving. So I think that there's a fine line there. What we're looking at it from my perspective is a lot of hybrid, but the projections that I just saw from The Economist yesterday says 36% of all jobs will be remote by 2025, permanently remote. Whereas now they're kind of flux. It's still around, I think it's a pretty high percentage because we're still not out of the pandemic. But companies that draw a real line in the sand going to lose that talent. You lose that talent, very hard to find it.
Yeah. They're willing to pay for it, obviously, too. And
I was going to say that I think what we've got the different goals here, right? Employers have real estate, investments in real estate, and they can't figure out what to do with that. Like they're seeing money that they're paying and they want to be able to say they've got a reason for having people in the office, right? But then we have a tighter labor market and employees pushing back saying, don't make me come back to the office just because you need to fill your real estate space. That's not my problem. So I think that the labor market is still tight. It's not 100% shift over to the employers with the power and control. So while they're trying to demand certain things, I think they're having to be finding they have to be more flexible and be more accommodating for the different range, as Robin pointed out, the different range of what people are wanting. Some people want to come into the office. They just work better that way. What makes me sad is that some employers are saying, I want you back because I don't trust you can do the work on your own and you can be productive.
Yeah,
Like,
we know it can.
yeah.
right. That's not true. If that's true, that's a whole nother problem. But use the right reason. If it's real estate, then tell me we have to justify our real estate. Don't just make this demand and not tell the employees what's going on. But flexible work and the ability to work anytime, anywhere, or come into the office, don't come into the office. That has been the most amazing thing to come out of the pandemic. And as we've been talking about, it's not going to go away because we've already fallen in love with it in many cases, and companies are doing different things.
Hannah, so the whole idea of flexibility in the workplace, hybrid is something a lot of people are embracing. Interesting. People who have moved away from their office are willing to go in 2 days a week, whether they have to drive or fly. But a lot of people that work in big cities, they don't want the commute anymore. They don't want the wasted 3 hours or 4 hours a day. And that's another pushback that you see, even in industries like financial services that are claiming we are client facing. How did you do business during 2020 when you couldn't be in front of the people and your dollars didn't go down? I think that's a piece of it. I also see too that a lot of people have fallen in love not only with that flexibility, but the part of I don't have to live there anymore. I saw so many people move out of Southern California and the Bay Area. They never had a prayer of being able to buy a house in those areas. So they moved to Phoenix,
Right.
they to Nevada, Las Vegas down a lot because those costs of living is a lot less. And they were able to buy homes. So now they're in a house, they're happy, and their employers like come back into the office and they're saying, no, can't blame them, especially in a really expensive city in Seattle. And I don't blame any of them. They, just like you and me, we have homes. They want a home too. So that's another incentive for people that they want to be able to work where they can afford to live. And I think that's another big push.
Yeah. When I went to LinkedIn, I was invited to LinkedIn offices recently for a cohort, a creators cohort. And they have 900 employees. Let's just say a fraction of them work in the office.
Yeah.
What's very interesting is that if I remember at the beginning, LinkedIn was one of the first companies that says, you guys can work from home forever for a long time. Then they started to ask people to come. Uh,
They got a lot of, and
Robin, you're right, is that the younger people are coming back to office. We went and our little cohort went through the building. It was mostly young people that were there. And they were mostly under 30 from what I can tell, because there were a lot of graduates who just gotten jobs there. The thing I thought about as you begin to talk, I said, those younger people are going to think it's pretty novel at first to come into the office and make those contacts. But they get older too. And their lives begin to evolve too. How long do you think that's going to last? Probably not very long. And you could say that, yeah, there'll be an influx. Yeah, there'll be influx going in and out, but don't forget, they're not staying at companies very long either. So therefore, it's kind of, again, employers put themselves in a quandary. And they'll say what's sexy at the time. Like everybody say, yeah, remote work, hybrid, remote work. You say, okay, stay on home. But then when they began to buy up all that real estate during the pandemic, remember, they were actively buying real estate, huge chunks of it. And they were because they were making a lot of money. Then it began not to look the same as it once did, began to grow some gray hairs, have some saggy body parts. And then it says, well, it's not as great. You need to come on back in. Everybody has to be ready to change and adapt to whatever it is at the moment. There is no long-term trajectory on how this is going to look.
There's one factor that I think you have to think about from an employer standpoint. People that are home, especially young and new employees, have loyalty to nothing because
Absolutely.
you're a computer. I'm talking to a computer. For a lot of young people, I get a lot of new college grads that look for help. And they're like, I'm sitting in my room. I'm doing Zoom on the computer. I live in my room. I sleep in my room and I work in my bedroom, right?
Mhm.
And their biggest complaint is, I feel like I don't belong to anything. And so the first next employer that comes along and says, here's a little carrot, I'll pay you a little more money, they're like hopping because there's no loyalty. They don't feel like they belong to anything. And I think that's because as they are home, even employers are saying, want somebody to come back to the office. They have not
Mhm.
done a good job of doing like an all hands or setting up. Because in the last 7-8 months, last year, you could have set up some sessions where once a month you have planned an activity that people come to. Every quarter, you have something where you fly the people in if you need to. That makes them feel like they belong to something.
Yeah.
You don't feel like you belong to anything. It's really easy to move. And they are.
Yeah.
They will jump for 5-10 grand, no problem. And that's what's been happening. I see huge movement, especially in that Gen Z and the young millennials. They just move so fast, and it's all about money. Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah. So retention is going to be the biggest challenge for employers in 2023.
absolutely. Yes.
What can I do to keep the people that I want to keep?
Yes.
And I say the people that I want to keep because I think that a lot of companies, and this again makes me sad, they use the pending recession as an excuse to downsize. They're eliminating people that really probably weren't performing all that well. They could have had that conversation with them, should have had that conversation with them before letting them go.
Sure.
But employers are having problems now and will have problems moving into 2023, retaining what they've got. For all of those reasons you said, Robin, they don't have, the companies haven't invested in having a lot of them. There are some that have done this, but most of them have not done a good job investing in program services to help the employees feel connected. We know that's an issue, right?
Yeah.
What are you going to do to make these employees feel they're connected? And you can't just say, oh, let's jump on a Zoom happy hour. That's not enough. If there isn't a strat for maintaining collaborative work environments in the workplace for the company, you're going to be in trouble in 2023.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Robin.
I was going to say one other change I see is there's been an extremely strong need, and this is going to continue. It's going to get even stronger in 2023 to promote from within. You cannot find the talent out there, so you're going to have to train and mentor the people you have. You're going to have to go to them and say, okay, we see that you've been working hard. We want to promote you. Maybe you're only 90% there, but we can't find somebody else. So we're going to promote you, and then we're going to provide extra training and extra mentoring so that you can come up to speed. And I'm seeing that. I'm talking to a lot of HR people in some of the Fortune 500 companies, and they're saying, because they're going to be more restrictive in terms of how many new bodies they can hire. They start maxing out a little bit and slowing down, pressure to promote from within. So that's good for every job hunter
Yeah.
that is trying to want some mobility in their career. I think that's really excellent news, but I think a lot of people will be surprised that their company's actually going to do it.
Well, so what that means for the person who's unemployed and looking is they're probably not going to see the higher level jobs in the quantities that they once did, right? Because those jobs are being filled internally. The other thing that I've seen related to this is for retention is a more emphasis on career pathing. So we did this a lot back in the 70s and 80s. You sat down with your manager, they talked to you about what you want to do when you're the next stage in your career, and they helped work with you on developing a professional development plan. How do you get to that next level internally? So companies are starting to do that again. And how well they do it is a whole nother topic. But again, it's based on the retention factor. We want to keep the employees that we have.
The only caveat I would say to the promotion aspect is that it saves company money ultimately. Instead of paying somebody new $100,000, they only have to give an incremental amount to promotion to somebody that's going to be internal. Which, honestly, if you have somebody who is really talented and they're looking at what's offered on the outside, what's offered on the inside, they've got to say, well, what's going to mean a lot more to me, the actual promotion and getting a better job title, or that I can get $10,000 without even trying to negotiate, but because they're stealing me from the competition, they're giving me 10,000 more, I'll take the money. So they'll have to either think, okay, will they competitively promote,
I've
or
seen
will they
I've
promote to
where
just
their
fill
where
me?
the company is coming up to say, okay, we're going to promote you. And it's a $15,000 increase as opposed to a $3,000 or $4,000 increase that it might have been pre-pandemic.
So the point is,
Going to lose them.
the point is for all of the people that are listening, if you are up for an internal promotion, you need to advocate for a bigger than normal or bigger than what they're probably offering you salary bonus.
Negotiate. Just don't say, oh, whoopee, I get this thing and it has a manager attached to it. Look at what the market value is and then start to negotiate from that point. But I think that goes on to say that people really have to continue, as I always say, to make job search a lifestyle, not since that you're always just changing from one company to another, that you're advancing your career in such a way that is also advancing all the other aspects of your career as well. Look at the training that you're going to get. Is it going to be marketable compared to what's going you would get to outside? And that's where you got to have that comparative analysis, not just say that, oh, they feel this certain way. Because honestly, because you're getting promotion doesn't mean they still feel very sentimental about you. They're doing it because this is they don't have these
Easy for them.
Yeah, it's just easier for them to do that for you at the moment. They'll make it sound like it's for you, but honestly, that's just the way that they'll play the game. So you also have to be as savvy as well and be as shrewd as well as knowing what the outside market value is. So let's talk a little bit because this kind of goes into what we talked about in this discussion about quiet quitting and how quiet quitting really, I think it was kind of silly discussion this year in one sense, because we made a thing of something that's been going on for decades, quite honestly. And it's interesting, all the naysayers will say, are you quiet quitters? And how you like quiet quitting now? And they begin to talk to people. It's funny. And it's just a really comedic online to see that going through LinkedIn. But all in all, it's just saying that people, as soon as you start thinking about your career and advancing your career, you're really quiet quitting. Let's just put it that way. You really begin to log out, not maybe systematically out of your computer, but in the terms that you're thinking about your future, that's really quiet quitting. But is it really, can we stop talking about quiet quitting in 2023?
Please.
Pardon
Let's
me?
I want to quit. We don't need a name, but most of them are quitting because they have a better opportunity. And some employers are coming back and trying to meet it. And they're literally coming in and saying, okay, what's your offer look like? Had a client who got an offer, it was 20,000 more and a director title. And she'd been pushing for a director title for almost 2 years where she was at. So she gave her notice, and the chief HR person said to the CEO, I cannot lose her. I can't, it's going to be too hard to replace. She's big, blah, blah, blah. So they came up with the money. They said they meet the money, actually beat it by $1,000. And she said, that isn't the only thing. You change my title or I'm gone. And so negotiation that went on, when you think about this, in the past, you'd have been lucky if you could have got $5,000 and never
Right.
would you be able to twist their arm. So
Right.
if you think about me and where you want to go. So it's about me. Where do I want to go? What do I want my career to look like? There's a lot of opportunity right now. And as Hannah will tell you, and Mark will tell you, we've never seen a job market like this. Never
No.
seen it in my career. I do not know how long it's going to last because I don't have a crystal ball, but nothing lasts forever. Nothing. And so take advantage. If you want to move on now, this is time to do it. None of us know what it's going to look like in 2024, but right now,
Right.
market's really good for a job hunter.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. And what I think as a part of that, Robin, comes the part where knowledge of the organization, there's a lot of equity in that. If you have somebody who's been around the organization, has been in several positions, you can look at it, well, they have a lot of knowledge and they know how to navigate the organization, but they also know where all the dead bodies are, so to speak. They know. So for some companies, and I've seen this in the news in different places, and I can't say this will be a trend, but I think it is a factor in keeping some of the talent that you have, that somebody knows the organization well enough that they become the resource better than any piece of paper or software program that they might be able to implement. But should you lose that, you also lose the fact that they know they're going to the competition. They likely are able to leverage that aspect of it. And
Yeah.
the competition's also able to pay that amount of money for that particular person, that particular talent. Your thoughts, Anna?
No, I'm just agreeing. And Robin, I'm almost sad for your client because it took her wanting to leave the organization before they were finally able to step up and do what they could have done all along. And doesn't that say a lot? Doesn't that say a lot about the culture and really how valuable am I?
Yeah.
How valuable am I really?
Do you know there's a lot of research done that when people do this, they leave within a year. But there's really in other circumstances that's deeper. And I did a huge study about this. And what the results were, which were not highly publicized, but internally publicized, was they tracked them and they found within 12 to 14 months, the person moved on anyway. So when you think, oh, it's all about the money, sometimes that might be what they're saying, but that's not the only issue. Something else caused them to look in the first place.
Message was sent is that we really don't want you. You forced our hand when it really should have been in the beginning. We really want you. Will you do anything we need to keep you? If my wife would have told me while we were dating around that I have other options and rather not you, what are you going to do? You're going to go somewhere else. You're not even making that consideration. So I think it's the same type of relationship. You're in this marriage if somebody's been with you 2 or 3 years or more now. It's no longer the 10 years to 15 years that it takes to get some kind of tenureship, so to speak, in a company. It takes two, if somebody's been around 3 years, they're valuable. You've kept them around for a reason. And that could be used very much to advance the career. Just want to point out, thank you, Erica, for watching. She lent this little comment I put up on the screen. But I definitely want to talk a little bit now about, and all this seems to be on the same side of the lane, but in different lanes, same side of the street, different lanes. Is how about layoffs? And I think we should talk about this from a practical point of view. Is that people, I think, are still confused about when they hear the news of layoffs, of what they should think about and how it should affect them. And really, I think we've all written it somewhere, some along the year, that layoffs in one industry doesn't necessarily affect other industries, even though some of the behaviors from one company seem to transcend from one company to another. So we're seeing companies lay off, and then we see other companies lay off. And we know that tech companies, they're big copycat companies. They do it because their competition is doing it. But now we see another company. What's that, Rob?
You were so bloated.
Yes.
You were buying everybody and pushing forward. And
Yes. Yes. And bragging about it and making it open, saying we're hiring all these people. And then 5 months later, oh, we overhired. And so now, it's kind of bureaucratic bullying in some sense. But all that to say, we can go about it different ways, but layoffs, we'll probably see people announce layoffs in 2023, all throughout 2023 is my way of looking at it. But I think the way that people should look and listen to the news, what should be the best practice of a couple of things, Anna? And I'll start with you. And when you hear a layoff or you hear pending layoff in your company, or you hear from your competitor's company in the same industry, how should you respond?
If people were really listening to you, Mark, they would have this mindset of job search and always be looking. But because we are human beings, we only take action when we're forced into a situation that is almost a crisis. When you hear rumblings or sense that a layoff is in the works or up for discussion, it is really getting clear about what you want to do next, fine tuning your LinkedIn profile, and then starting to have conversations with people that you used to work with, people that you trust and value, and start planting seeds that you're in the market for something new. And this is what it looks like. And these are some of the companies that I'm targeting.
Yeah. Yep. Robin.
really important factor. If you look at the number of layoffs we had in 2022 in comparison to other years, it's phenomenally low. Okay. So when a company like Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram, when they announce, okay, we're letting 11,000 people go, that's huge. When Amazon comes out, we're letting our entire recruiter division go. These are big because big companies, big numbers. But the point being, there's nobody that didn't know it was coming. It's very, very rare that people are blindsided. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't have their head in the sand. That's news for job hunters is this. They're finding a new job within 2 or 3 months. They are moving on really fast, even at the high level. I'm amazed. I'm a career counselor that works with clients, and I am amazed how quickly they can land a new job. If you think about a few years ago, you would have told somebody at the executive level, this is an 8 to 12 months process. And we would have told middle managers and even people that were professionals, looking at a good 6 to 8 months. 2 to 3 months now, they are rehired, better salary, a good situation. So it isn't like they're taking big pay cuts just because they have to go to work. And I think that's great news. I don't know if it's going to last forever, but the rehire at this point is fast.
That's because the hiring process is faster in many cases, right? Employers realize if we are fond of a candidate, we need to move fast because there are going to be other companies that are going to make them an offer, or they may move somewhere else. So companies have finally figured out, because during the pandemic, they were taking forever. It was taking months and months. And now they realize, oh, shoot, the longer we wait, the less likely we are to get our first choice.
Because with the proximity issues have been resolved, right? Everything can be done remotely. Nobody doesn't have to go here. You don't have to have a whole bunch of people come for a panel interview from all these different places and have the schedules aligned when everybody can do it from where they're at. So that takes care of a lot of that. And I think that's one of the trends. I think that's going to be trend, as you say, Hannah. The process is moving faster only because you don't have to worry. I think people were afraid the process was going to be long because I think in some industries, the process will still be longer. I think there'll be no doubt about it. And there is no blanket answer for every industry across the board. But having said that, I think some of the tech industries have veiled that, hey, we use technology. Why not use tech to make these things happen? Having said that, though, I think every industry is going to have some subsection of a tech industry because as layoffs begin to happen and a lot of people begin to exit the big tech companies, you can go to a bank and still be in the tech industry. You can go to hospitality and still be in the tech industry.
Right.
You can remain in those industries. So all of that's going to be touched. And I think I think there's a shift in the way that we need to look at it now is that we can't just say because tech industries are doing this, everybody else is going to do that. when people get just shipped to wherever it is. It doesn't even matter. The medical industry, the healthcare industry is going to be a sub-tech industry because they're going to rely on the tech and security and all those things everybody else needs. You got to have it in-house almost in order to survive as a business. Is there anything I'm missing? No?
No,
But
I you nailed it. The biggest thing that we see too going forward is people that might be coming out of they don't think beyond that. Because I work for a tech company or I'm in a startup and they're going to have to change their thinking. They're going to have to see, hey, financial services has fintech. Issues that the education industry has so much that's dealing with technology. If they start looking at how do I broaden out, take my skills, they're transferable. It gives everybody, whether you're in marketing, it doesn't make any difference, sales, it gives you a lot more latitude. So it's taking the transferable skills, but really thinking through what other industry do I want to be in? Am I going to like it? And maybe moving there. I think that they're going to absorb some of these people. Now, if you're a coder, if you're a software engineer, why they would ever let one of those go, I do not know, because they'll have 10 job offers by Friday night. You let them go
right.
on. Friday. So there are some really high demand people that other employers are going to scramble to hire.
So there was just a great idea, a great post that LinkedIn did, and it's called the 41 Ideas for 2023. And I just shared it and I skimmed it, but it very much like Robin said, if you are dissatisfied or thinking about making a shift in your career, read through that list of some of the predictions and industry changes that are happening, whether it be retail or the food industry. There's some really interesting things that are happening. And all you need to do is find one of those things that excites you, that you get interested about, and then you can make that shift towards that new industry. Who knows what that might look like, but obviously tech in the healthcare industry is going to be huge. There's not enough nurses and healthcare providers to service all the people. So technology is playing a role in that. Could you be a part of that solution?
Yep. And I just want to remind everybody, and I'm here with Hannah Morgan and Robin Ryan. This will be forever embedded in LinkedIn as far as we know. Replay Someone Gas is this being recorded replay. Yes, not only that, but it'll also be on my YouTube channel. If you look for my name, Mark Anthony Dyson, you'll find it there. It'll be there forever as far as yes, this is being recorded. It's also going to be on podcast coming up in January. So we want to get this discussion going and out of the way before that time hit. Let's talk a little bit about, because I think there's a lot of different opinions that are floating around LinkedIn recently. And all those social channels, I think there's a bunch of stuff that's just floating around and people are arguing what's a personal brand, whether you have one, whether you're not. I'd rather not go into that particular part of the discussion. But I think one of the things that we should talk about is how to stand out in 2023, because I think it's slightly different than what it was back in 2020. And one of the things I began to talk about, and I had this discussion with Alexandra Levitt. I think both of you know her. We talked about, and she made a great point, and I'm ringing this bell a lot, is that it's better to have a knowledge that's kind of transcends and translates to many different industries, to have the skill that translates to many different industries than to just the one that translates to the one or two, or to have skills that are just exclusionary and are only going to be used in certain scenarios. Having said that, what are some of the things that you see that ways that candidates are standing out and that they'll need to stand out looking based on what we know about hiring managers and employers and their habits, and looking at candidates now that we had that part of the discussion? Let's talk about how they need to stand out. Robin, what are you seeing that the way people are standing out and look like it's going to go into 2023 and beyond?
Having a LinkedIn profile that has the keywords in it, that has the right job titles, that explains the work experience and shows not only the hard skills, but the soft skills. A lot of buzz right now about meeting a person who, for example, you could be the best engineer and they could promote you to engineering manager, and you do a terrible job because you don't have the additional skills. And those are what we call soft skills sometimes. building a rounder picture of who you are, what you bring to the table. And the other way I think you stand out is mastery, that you are good at something, that you tell people, I'm really good at this. I'm really excellent as a graphic designer. really know the UX or the e-commerce business. So in my perspective, it's showing you've mastered an industry, that you could change industries, that you document this with your work history. And you keep in mind that as recruiters are searching and looking for talent, you can't just have this empty blank. You have to fill in the information on LinkedIn. It's amazing to me how many people I see got nothing. Maybe list the job title. That won't help you professionally. And you're not going to stand out whether you're looking for a board of director position, you're looking to move up, you just want more followers, or you want to be proud of what you've done and look impressive to people who might want to come to work for you, or you're the face of the company. Everybody in HR, you're the face of the company. Salespeople, face of the company. So your LinkedIn profile needs to look good, and you need to be very current on the information you're giving out.
I think the other thing that we want to think about, it's not just getting noticed or seen by recruiters. That's definitely important. Recruiters are being proactive and searching for talent beyond just putting a job posting out there. So yes, they're using LinkedIn and all kinds of word searches to find the talent they're looking on wherever they're going. And a lot of times they're going to, if they're looking for a graphic designer, they're going to those communities of graphic designers. If they're looking for somebody who is strong in training and development, they're going to go to ATD and the Professional Association for Training and Development and post a job there, or see who's been speaking at conferences. I think they're that proactive job search is going on. But more importantly, I think that we need to do a better job, and this is the hardest thing, in taking credit for the things that we have done so that the people we know what we can do. Oftentimes we keep that a secret. We don't talk about our accomplishments. And what good is that if only your employers and your boss knows how good the work is you do? So along the lines of what Robin was saying, I would love to see more people build out that LinkedIn profile and not just include the right keywords and a better job title, but also include samples of work. If you helped with a campaign, a new product launch campaign or a fundraising campaign, why not include a snippet, a screenshot of that and put that in your LinkedIn profile? See, LinkedIn is so much more than just words and text. It can be really powerful for embedding media, whether it's a video or anything like that. And Mark, you know what happened when you started doing video? You got a whole new set of audience that brought your search results and the people who are knowing about you to a much greater level. And I think that even job seekers could do what we're doing. They could host a LinkedIn Live, right? In their industry where they have expertise so that they build a reputation beyond just what the people know inside their company. But it's not always bad to do this on your own. Oftentimes what's good for you as an individual is good for the face of the company, right?
Absolutely. And I think that people estimate media because they're afraid of the regular stuff being fade mirrored. But yeah, at the same time, they'll complain about not being seen and not getting results. And in order for you to do, of course, get a different result, to do something different. And a lot of times video and doing media or anything that's pertaining to media is going to put yourself out there, not just particularly for that moment though. People could find you years from now, you could be relevant. I think I shared this with you, Hannah, when I was on a national radio show a couple of years. Host found some content from 10 years ago that I wrote. It's completely ridiculous. But all that to say is that you can't just think about how you're going to look now. Yeah, do what you need to do to polish things. But we're all a work in progress. Even now, my camera stopped working. So I had to kind of cameras. If I look at it now, I kind of look like from the 1950s, old Rod Steiger movie or something. But you have to be willing to take those chances and also go forward with doing what you need to stand out. It doesn't have to be the obvious things, but I think people need to do some things that are a little bit more noble. You and I talked about how to have a website for years. And it's still one of the most valuable real estate spots you have. Think about what's going away. You remember when Google Plus was around? You, you remember when MySpace was around? That might be more drastic. But you think about how people are starting to feel about Twitter now, and how they're starting to think about some of the other platforms now. They're not as stable as you think they are, but your
You don't
website
know.
could be, yeah, but your website could be the one place at one constant place. It doesn't cost a lot of money to keep up something as basic as maybe an about me page, there where people can find you. Believe me, recruiters are looking for easier places to find you than they ever have before. Some will say, well, we don't consider some of these things, but they're all up on LinkedIn telling how people are doing things wrong. And all that to say is that we can, at least for the moment, we can count on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn may go away. So that's why you've got to have your own, what what they were calling, and I begin to hear the word digital assets again, that you put out there for online to be seen as a digital asset. And it's a work in progress. You're always looking to get better and better. Any more comments about that, about standing out that either one of you may have for right now? And I know that either one of you could write a 2,000 word article about it, but
Last thing, and Hannah hit on this, result. Don't devalue yourself. A lot of times a person will feel like, well, I did it and it's not that big of a deal. Or I'm young in my career and I don't really have stellar things. I didn't save the company $1 million or whatever it might be. We're looking at the level that you're at. So when you go to fill out, whether it's LinkedIn or the resume, make sure it's results oriented. Employers want to see, what have you accomplished? And the projection, if you've done that there, you can do it for us. And I think that too many people just take their job description, they'll dump it into LinkedIn or they dump it into the resume. And then they're like, gee, I don't understand why I'm not having more success or nobody's noticing me. You have to change that perspective. And as I say, I see a lot of people that devalue their skills, they devalue what they've done. So, probably the first thing you need to do is take an assessment. Go out there, look at some job openings, look at some other people, type in your job title and look at them and see what they're saying about themselves so that you can start advertising and marketing yourself much more effectively. That's how you stand out. It's better self marketing.
One last thing I want to add too, and I think it piggybacks on what Robin is saying. Upskilling, making sure that the skills you have are right for your industry. And again, if you've been with just one company for a while, you may have lost touch with some of the other technology or terminology that's being used in your industry. It's always good to do that assessment by looking at other people's profiles and looking at job postings. What skills are they asking for? And do I have those? Your employer may not use that technology, but it shouldn't be a barrier to you learning it because there's so many different online courses and ways you can. So it's up to us to manage that our skill set is not only promoted right, but we've got the right material that is relevant to the marketplace today.
okay,
And
bro.
really
Go
important
ahead,
point,
Robin.
training. If your company doesn't offer great training, consider Coursera, Section 4. These organizations have top-notch training. It takes segments, so it's like a class with maybe 6, 8, 10 segments. You do take little tests, but you get a certification when you're done. So it could be in project management, it could be UX, it could be in a whole bunch of different things. My understanding is Coursera has something like 5,000 offerings, and it's Coursera. If you type it in, Couresa, highly reputable, very well respected. The other thing too, community colleges offer a lot of individual classes. Industry associations also have some kind of continuing education. Keeping up to date. This is what Hannah's talking about. Keeping up to date, keeping those skills right at the level that they need to be, not only for today, but thinking about what are they going to need tomorrow so that I don't get left behind. And that means you got to manage that and manage it and be a lifelong learner.
The thing is, college degrees are important. They're not the end all be all. And one of the things that we've seen is that some companies are not putting the same emphasis they used to have on must have a college degree in certain jobs, which is wonderful. I don't think that someone needs to go back and enroll and get a master's degree or whatever. The nice thing that we're seeing more and more colleges doing, and this has always been more likely been the case at community colleges, is offering certificate programs. All right, maybe it's a half a year, maybe it's 3 or 4 courses. Get the certificate. You don't necessarily need a master's degree or a bachelor's degree or any degree. Just get the certificate. You'll be good.
She's 100% correct. It's unfortunate though, because it's a really small segment that continues their education, that really keeps their skills up. And had a student that graduated recently, a couple years ago, communication major, went into tech, no tech skills, nothing about the industry, came in, but has been taking all these certification courses and now is in high demand because number one, can communicate, can work with clients, can work with other people and collaborate in-house and get things done. And two, has taught himself through certification programs and picked up all this extra knowledge that really makes him very marketable. So it's looking at the industry too and saying, what certifications might benefit me? What's going to help me move my career ahead and do better in the job that I have? That's where I think 2023 is going to. You got to pay attention to what are my skills? What else do I need? How do I add to what I have? Because you don't want to be a dinosaur. You don't want to get left behind. And then you find out 2 or 3 years from now, oh, I lost my job. Oh, I don't have the skills to get something else. That's going to be an issue. You definitely got to be paying attention and putting in that extra effort, because I agree it's extra effort, but it's worth it.
Absolutely. I think, go ahead, Hannah. You had.
No, I was going to say, welcome back, Mark.
Yeah.
Can we miss-
I really believe 2023 is really everything that we mentioned is trending towards still being somewhat of a job seeker market, even with all the talk about the recession. But I think the recession is break some industries. I'm going to find out which actually are going to really break because of it. But it just seems like everybody keeps saying that it keeps coming. And all I'm saying is for job seekers not to get distracted about what's going to remain laser focused in on what's going to matter to you. And that is your current job search. You don't consider stopping a job search if you're already considering changing industries. You might want to start changing and pushing towards a change a lot sooner. And I think the habits of job seekers is going to change in 2023, as it has in the past couple of years, is that people are no longer going to wait for companies to make changes. I think they're going to be the change and can be the catalyst for change by saying that this madness has got to stop. Either I've got to change or change companies. And that's a hard decision to make. But I think job seekers are about making a harder decision now than they ever had, because it's costing many of them tens and tens of thousands of dollars by waiting for somebody else to say that it's okay. You can't wait for permission. You can't wait to see that it's going to be all right. You can't even wait to see if the recession's overnight or whether it began or not. I think people made some of the best career moves in the last recession of 2008, 2009, 2010. Maybe it took them a couple of years to get traction, but they realized that companies don't, and I'll say it again, companies are not all that touchy-feely about you anymore. They don't have this sentimentality about you anymore. They're going to change the narrative as they need to for their bottom line. So do you. You've got to be as shrewd, and you don't have to tell them that what you're thinking. You don't have to tell anybody that you're quiet quitting, as if that was a thing. You don't have to tell them anything. You have to forge forward with your job search, what's in front of you, because lots of recessions and job change and sentimentality is not going to pay your bills, nor is it going to help you advance your career. You get to advance your career. So I think that's the way that people really can look at it. And they need to stop applying online alone. And how many years have we been saying that? Stop filling out 60 applications in December. Don't do that. Don't do that in January or anytime. Pick some, pick some companies to go after, start to look at them closely, look at who works for that company closely. You can see the employees, former employees and current company employees by looking at the company's LinkedIn profile. If they chose to connect themselves with that company, look at the people who are our second and third connections, not just the first connections. Look at who they're connected with, because the sweet spot is in the weak ties and not just the direct ties, as if we haven't seen enough articles about that. I think all in all, be courageous and sometimes do something a little bit bolder. I think it doesn't hurt to be bold, and bold might be talking to a VP rather than somebody who is just a worker. Maybe get them a call. I learned a lot from my son as he was job searching, is that he just wasn't applying online. He was calling C-suite directly for a position and people who really mattered directly for a position. He was just a master's graduate, but yet he had the audacity to call. And sometimes it takes a little bit more audacity to get the two steps forward than you just waiting for an application or just waiting for somebody to refer you sometimes, because sometimes referrals are even slow, even though that is way that people can get connected to a company. Any last minute ads we need to make? Robin, we'll start with you.
No, I think that if people get the message when they leave this, that you're responsible for your own career. Okay.
Yep.
And so you need to spend time and assess it. I think the beginning of the year is a really good time to take a clear picture. Are you happy? That's number one. Do you like where the company's going? Are there problems in the company that might become severe? What are the opportunities for you to learn more? How can you improve your skills? How can you make yourself more marketable? Is there a new area you want to move into? And if so, you need to get some training to be able to do that. And the last thing that I think is most important that you were hitting on, Mark, network, network. Even when you're done networking, network some more. Always build relationships with people. Not only can you go to them when you're job hunting, but you can go to them and say, we're looking at this new software. What do you think? Or have you ever tried this? Or how could I help you? And remember, it's not all to take. There's a lot of give in that too. But I feel, and I've always felt this, Hannah and I are in agreement on this. Networking needs to be one of the critical things you do for your entire career.
Absolutely. Hannah, any last minute?
I hope that people spend more time making time for themselves in their own career development. I was talking to somebody yesterday and he's been working nose to the grindstone on a project for the past 3 years. He hasn't done any outreach. He hasn't done any professional development. He hasn't had conversations with anyone except his colleagues. So I said, dude, how's it working for you? You're interested in making a change. It's going to take you a while to reestablish those connections. And so I'm hoping as a New Year's resolution for those people that are unhappy in their jobs or just thinking that they need to take better care of themselves, that part of that is allocating time every week for you and your career. Whatever you need to do, whether that's reskilling or conversations with people that you want to meet, whatever that is, carve time out every week for your career development.
Yep. And we're going to call it quits here. And I want to thank Robin making time out here. It's tough to get Robin. But I'm glad you were able to come and make time for me in the podcast.
Anytime, Mark.
I
Anytime
think
you ask, I'll do it. I'm here
the
anytime. you ask.
viewers have been, yeah, and the viewers have benefited as well as Hannah. It is also tough to get you in on some time, especially for an hour. And I'm really grateful. Thank you very much for joining me here on the Voice of Job Seeker podcast. And thank the rest of you all watching. You're going to see this probably the second week of January. So be looking out. But in the meantime, it is embedded right here on Moodle. Somehow we disconnected from Twitter and YouTube. That's okay. YouTube will be on a little bit later on, but definitely come back here and watch it, watch a replay. and get a lot out of it. And there's a lot of gems that were dropped today by Robin and Hannah. Again, thank the rest of you. Peace and the balance, love, and happy New Year 2023.